The hike begins. It was a crisp autumn morning when four friends, Liam, Emma, Noah, and Sophia, set out on a hiking trip to explore the dense wilderness of Blackwood Forest in the United States. The forest was known for its towering trees, serene lakes, and mysterious legends that had intrigued adventurers for decades. For Liam and Emma, this trip wasn't just about adventure. It marked the beginning of something special. They had been secretly dating for a few months but hadn't told anyone yet. Similarly, Noah and Sophia were already an established couple, often teasing each other playfully while sharing tender glances. As they trekked deeper into the forest, the air grew cooler, and sunlight filtered through the canopy of leaves above, creating golden patterns on the forest floor. The first 2 days passed uneventfully. They laughed, shared meals, took photos, and marveled at the beauty of nature around them. At night, they gathered around the campfire, roasting marshmallows and exchanging stories about life, dreams, and love. On the third evening, as twilight descended over the forest, the group stumbled upon a hidden gem, a pristine lake surrounded by ancient trees. Its surface shimmered like glass under the pale moonlight, reflecting the stars scattered across the sky. The sight was breathtaking, almost magical. "Wow, this place is straight out of a fairy tale," Sophia whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Noah grinned and wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Feels like we've found paradise, doesn't it?" Liam glanced at Emma, who stood quietly beside him, admiring the view. He felt a surge of courage. "Do you want to take a walk along the shore?" he asked softly. Emma smiled shyly and nodded. "That sounds nice. Romance under the stars." While Noah and Sophia stayed near the campsite, enjoying the tranquility of the lake, Liam and Emma wandered off together. The sound of rustling leaves and gentle waves lapping against the shore created a soothing ambience. They walked hand in hand, their footsteps barely audible on the soft earth. "This place feels so peaceful," Emma said, breaking the comfortable silence between them. "Like nothing bad could ever happen here." Liam stopped and turned to face her. His heart raced as he looked into her eyes. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you." She tilted her head, curious. "What is it?" Taking a deep breath, Liam confessed, "I think I'm falling in love with you." For a moment, Emma didn't respond. Then, a warm smile spread across her face. "I think I might be falling for you too," she admitted, her cheeks flushing slightly. They embraced under the starlit sky, feeling as though time had stopped just for them. Meanwhile, back at the campsite, Noah and Sophia sat close to the fire, reminiscing about how they fell in love during college. Their laughter echoed softly through the trees, blending harmoniously with the sounds of the forest. Later that night, after everyone returned to the campsite, they decided to turn in early. However, sleep eluded them. Something about the forest felt different tonight. Quieter, heavier, as if it held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Unable to rest, Liam suggested, "Why don't we go back to the lake? Maybe watching the stars will help us relax." Emma agreed, and surprisingly, Noah and Sophia decided to join them. Armed with flashlights, they made their way back to the lake. But as they approached, they noticed something unusual, a faint glow emanating from the center of the water. "What's that?" Sophia asked, pointing toward the eerie light. "It looks like fireflies," Noah guessed, squinting. But as they drew closer, they realized it wasn't fireflies. The glow pulsed rhythmically, almost hypnotically, casting strange shadows on the surrounding trees. Suddenly, the temperature dropped sharply, and a chilling breeze swept through the area. "This doesn't feel right," Emma murmured, clutching Liam's arm. Before anyone could react, a figure emerged from the mist hovering over the lake. It was translucent, humanoid in shape, yet ethereal. Its presence sent shivers down their spines. Who are you?" Liam stammered, stepping protectively in front of Emma. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it raised a spectral hand, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. Roots erupted from the soil, twisting and writhing like serpents. The once beautiful lake now seemed menacing, its waters churning violently. "We need to leave." "No," Noah shouted, grabbing Sophia's hand. But escape wasn't easy. The forest itself seemed alive, blocking their path with thick vines and fallen branches. Panic set in as the ghostly figure advanced, its hollow voice echoing in their minds. "You do not belong here." Desperate to protect their loved ones, Liam and Noah tried reasoning with the apparition. "We mean no harm. We'll leave immediately," Liam pleaded. The figure paused, tilting its head as if considering their words. Then, without warning, it vanished, leaving behind an unsettling stillness. The trembling ceased, and the glowing light faded. Breathing heavily, the group stumbled back to their campsite, shaken but unharmed. They spent the rest of the night huddled together, too frightened to sleep. By morning, the forest appeared normal again. Birds chirped cheerfully, and sunlight streamed through the trees. It was as if the previous night's events had never occurred. Yet, none of them could shake off the feeling that they had witnessed something extraordinary. As they packed up their gear to leave, Liam couldn't help but reflect on what had happened. "Do you think that was real?" he asked Emma. "I don't know," she replied thoughtfully. "But one thing's for sure, it brought us closer together." Noah and Sophia exchanged knowing smiles. "Maybe the forest wanted to remind us how precious our connections are," Sophia mused. Though they left Blackwood Forest behind, the memory of that night lingered. For Liam and Emma, it solidified their bond, giving them the courage to share their relationship with their friends. And for Noah and Sophia, it reinforced their commitment to cherish every moment they had together. Weeks later, sitting around a bonfire in their hometown, the group recounted their adventure to others. Some dismissed it as mere imagination or coincidence, but the four of them knew better. The forest had revealed its secrets to them, not just the supernatural ones, but also the profound truths about love, trust, and the interconnectedness of all things. And though they never returned to Blackwood Forest, they carried its lessons with them forever. Let me tell you about an incident that occurred during my annual vacation. My name is Dean, and I work as a software engineer at a tech company in New York. My colleagues, James, Leah, Catherine, and Matthew, also worked with me. We decided to plan something special for our yearly break, a hiking trip to Blackwood Forest, located in the northern part of the United States. The forest was famous for its towering trees, serene landscapes, and mysterious legends that had intrigued adventurers for decades. We prepared everything we needed: tents, food, and all the essential gear for hiking. Our goal was to spend 5 days in the forest, soaking in the beauty of nature. The first 4 days went by smoothly. We set up camp under the shade of tall trees, cooked meals over small campfires in the evening, and spent nights gazing at the stars. But on the 5th day, things began to change. Catherine's disappearance. On the morning of the 5th day, we decided to explore a new area of the forest. We packed up our tents and headed deeper into the dense woods. James, who was the leader of our group, guided us. He was always eager for adventure. "People say strange things have been seen here," James said with a grin. "Some believe this forest was once home to an ancient tribe." We dismissed it as just an interesting story and kept moving forward. However, as noon approached, we realized something was wrong. One of our group members, Catherine, was nowhere to be found. "Where's Catherine?" Leah asked, her voice trembling with concern. "She was behind us just a few minutes ago," James replied. "Maybe she took a different path." But when we tried to find her, there was no trace. We called out her name, but only silence answered. Searching for Catherine. We decided to return to the campsite and wait for Catherine there. But when we got back, she wasn't there either. Fear began to creep into our minds. "How is this possible?" Leah asked, her voice shaking. "Did she get lost?" "We need to find her," I said firmly. "Something isn't right here." We decided to head back into the forest. Armed with flashlights, we retraced our steps to where we last saw Catherine. When we arrived, we noticed something strange, a large imprint on the ground, as if something heavy had pressed down on it. There were signs of disturbed leaves around it, but no human footprints. "What is this?" James asked, his voice filled with fear. By now, we all felt that this wasn't just any ordinary forest. Something supernatural was at play, a hidden world beneath the ground. As we dug into the soil, we uncovered a massive door. It looked like the entrance to an ancient house, buried underground. Despite our fear, we knew we had to find Catherine. Holding hands for courage, we stepped inside. The moment we entered, an unsettling feeling washed over us. The walls were lined with skulls and bones. Bloodstains covered the walls, some fresh, some old. The air reeked of decay, as if no one had cooked or lived here for days. "What is this place?" Matthew exclaimed, his voice trembling. We pressed on, and soon we heard sounds coming from a corner. It was Catherine's voice. She was groaning in pain. We followed the sound and found her lying on the ground, blood streaming from her feet. Her condition was horrifying, as if some dark force was consuming her alive. We were all shaken. "We have to save her," I shouted. At that moment, Matthew, who was the son of a pastor, used the knowledge he had learned from his father. He quickly lit a small fire and drew a protective circle around it. Then he recited some verses from the Bible. Suddenly, a transparent figure appeared above Catherine. It hovered in the air like smoke before dissipating into nothingness. Catherine's account. When we brought Catherine back to the camp and tended to her wounds, she regained consciousness. She told us how she had gone missing. "I was exploring a new area," Catherine explained. "Then suddenly, I heard a voice calling me. I tried to resist, but I felt a pull, as if something was forcing itself into me. After that, I blacked out." The next morning, we packed up our gear and decided to leave. We took Catherine with us. As we emerged from the forest, we couldn't shake the feeling that we had uncovered a great secret. This experience taught us to respect the power of nature. No matter how advanced society becomes, we are still small compared to the forces of the natural world. Catherine's ordeal still haunts me at night. Every time I look at the stars, I'm reminded of what happened. My name is Sahil, and I have always been passionate about experiencing the beauty of nature. From childhood until now, spending time amidst nature has been my favorite pastime. Watching sunlight spread over open fields, feeling the cool breeze in the forest, and sensing the silence hidden among tall trees. These things have always deeply moved me. For me, nature is not just a place to visit or stay. It is a friend that draws me closer. This time, I decided on a new adventure. I consulted some old friends, and we planned to go hiking in the famous and mysterious Blackwood Forest in the United States. This forest evokes an eerie yet fascinating feeling in people's minds. On one hand, it is renowned for its breathtaking beauty, with towering trees, seasonal fragrances, and unforgettable landscapes that pull you in. The Blackwood Forest's charm was something everyone had heard about. Its trees are so tall that their canopies seem to touch the blue sky. When you step inside the forest, you enter an environment that feels completely disconnected from the outside world. The air carries a unique scent, a blend of wildflowers, dry leaves, and humidity. It feels like a world where time doesn't exist. We entered the forest in the afternoon. The shade of the tall trees and the cool breeze welcomed us. As we ventured deeper, a world unfolded before us, one that was both terrifying and beautiful. The branches of the towering trees reached toward the sky, casting powerful shadows on the ground. The air was cold and soft, as if trying to envelop us. With every step, leaves crunched underfoot, and occasionally, Birds chirped faintly in the distance. At first, we laughed and joked around. Everyone was taking pictures, the towering trees, small animals, and even our group selfies. At one point, my friend Salman said, "This place is like a movie set. If someone filmed here, it would become a huge hit." We all burst out laughing, but there was something in his words that made me think. We had walked quite far when suddenly the sunlight began to dim. The brightness of the sun faded, and silence enveloped the forest. Only the sound of our footsteps and distant bird calls could be heard. Evening shadows fell over the forest, and the atmosphere changed completely. The cheerful ambience disappeared, replaced by an unsettling feeling. We decided to set up camp. We found a clearing surrounded by trees, where the ground was relatively flat. We pitched our tents, and Salman took charge of gathering firewood for the campfire. Night was falling. We gathered around the campfire, laughing and sharing stories. My friend Salman, an experienced Spanish hiker, remarked, "This forest is incredibly beautiful. I've never seen anything like it." But suddenly, the forest silence was broken by the sound of footsteps approaching. The noise grew louder, yet nothing was visible. Trying to lighten the mood, Salman chuckled and said, "It must be a deer. No need to worry." However, a strange fear crept into my heart. I kept looking around, scanning the trees, but saw nothing. Then, unexpectedly, a shadowy figure appeared between the trees. It had a human-like shape, but its feet hovered above the ground, as if floating in the air. Seeing this was so unusual that we all fell silent. Our hearts raced, and a chill ran through our bodies. This wasn't just a shadow, it was something that shook us to our core. The shadow moved slowly between the tall trees, drifting as if carried by the wind. None of us spoke. We only exchanged glances. Questions filled our minds. What was this? How was it possible? Then, suddenly, a faint whisper accompanied the shadow. The voice was barely audible, forcing us to strain our ears to hear. Yet, despite its softness, the words pierced our hearts. The voice said, "Go back. This place is not meant for you." Those words sent a shiver down our spines. A cold sensation gripped us, as if ice had seeped into our veins. My friend Ahmed stammered, "What is this? Are we dreaming?" But I knew this wasn't a dream. Fear was etched on every face in our group. We looked at each other, unable to respond. We tried to run, but the paths vanished. It was as though the forest had trapped us. Wherever we looked, all we could see were the towering trees and empty spaces between them. Behind us, the mysterious shadow continued to follow us. Now it was closer. Its steps no longer floated in the air but echoed on the ground. Each step heightened our awareness of its presence. Between the trees, the shadow drew nearer. Though it appeared as a mere silhouette, it radiated an extraordinary power. It didn't feel like an ordinary shadow. Rather, it seemed to represent some otherworldly entity. We struggled to move forward, but the paths kept shifting. The forest had ensnared us. Salman shouted, "This can't be real. It must be a dream." His voice trembled with fear and confusion. But deep down, we all knew it was real. Beads of sweat trickled down our faces, and our breathing quickened. Every heartbeat felt like it might be our last. Even today, whenever I hear about Blackwood Forest, that whisper echoes in my mind. Its words still resonate within me, as fresh as they were then. "This place is not for you." These words were more than a warning. They embedded themselves permanently in my thoughts. I don't know what those shadows were. Was it the presence of a spirit or a supernatural being? Perhaps it was the protective force of an ancient tribe, guarding its territory and frightening intruders. Or maybe it was the forest itself, a mechanism to keep humans away. One thing I am certain of, Blackwood Forest is a place where the ordinary laws of nature do not apply. Here, time and space are defined differently. The environment feels like another dimension entirely separate from ours. Its trees, air, and silence reveal a reality beyond human comprehension.